Welcome to the Red Room. Today we are going to discuss Her Heart Was a Locked Room and Nobody Had the Key. This very giallo title is a free scenario on the Giallo Trilogy.
Yeah, it's supposed to be played with Orpheum Lofts, which was the last promo video. We talked about Orpheum Lofts, but it can be played by itself. If you don't know what is a giallo, I suggest that you stop here and watch first the first promotion video for Orpheum Lofts, because I'm not going to discuss this here. It's a long story, and well, and if you still want to know more things, then I wrote a couple of articles for the Postmortem Studios blog. I'll link them below, and I wrote an article for Alarms and Magazines, Alarms and Journeys magazine, issue 10. I'll link for these too. There's more information on those articles about giallos and role-playing games and adapting a giallo to a role-playing game. Okay, giallo is a thriller, so that's what I'm going to say about it in this video. So let's go straight to this scenario. This one was published first as a blog post, also on Postmortem Studios blog, but then people asked me to do a PDF with the scenario. This is not a proper layout. I did it myself. It was done on Word and then converted to PDF just to be easily shared. So you have to forgive me because this isn't that good. Anyway.
But it has a nice victim on the cover.
Yes, this is one of the main characters of Orpheum Lofts, who is also a main character here. In Her Heart Was a Locked Room and Nobody Had a Key. Sylvia mentioned this is a very giallo title because, well, it's strange and it's very long, and it's something that's usual in giallo movies.
They're normally mysterious and don't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, and sometimes mentions animals, birds, and other ducks. Okay. So let's start talking about this one shot, which is meant to introduce players to giallos and to this trilogy, which isn't quite a trilogy in the sense that it hasn't well, you don't have to play the three scenarios, and although the first two, Orpheum Lofts and the Memorial, have some things in common, the third one absolutely nothing except thematically.
And you can play this one without having even Orpheum's Loft, although it will enrich, because then you will have access to all the characters in Orpheum's Loft.
Yeah, this has a small description of characters, but mostly the characters which will appear in this one. So this is about, well, I'm not going to tell you the story, though there are some spoilers here, but I'm not going to tell the story anyway.
We can say that it starts with a murder.
Yeah, it starts with a murder. One of the main characters, the murder is here. Well, not quite this, but there's a J&B bottle here because it's there's a lot of publicity to Jusserine and Brooks whiskey in giallo movies. So there's a murder in the Orpheum Lofts building, and there's a neighbor who watches that murder. That's this young man here, Billy Brubaker. He isn't featured in Orpheum Lofts as he's a new character just for the one shot.
And he watches on a very gialesque scene. Let's say it. He's looking through the window outside, and he watches the murder. Yeah. I don't want to add spoilers, but this is a very interesting scene, and it's very typical of giallos.
He's a voyeur, and the trope of voyeurism is very common in giallos. By the way, I will be talking about tropes, which is a thing that it's probably interesting to add to any of these scenarios, even though it's not a mechanic, it's just a thing. By the way, I didn't mention, or maybe I didn't mention just a bit in Orpheum Lofts in the promo video, that the scenarios of this trilogy use actual fucking monsters rules. But it's just basically it's they are used for stats, for character stats, not much more.
So you can adapt this to any rule set.
Yeah, probably Call of Cthulhu would be similar thematically because it's investigations and that kind of thing. So I'll talk a little bit about the tropes while I'm talking about the characters too. So this one, Billy Brubaker, is a voyeur and also an outsider. An outsider because that's also a common trope. There are characters who usually come from different places from the one they are currently residing when they appear in the movie. So, for example, this was used commonly to introduce American and British actors in Italian movies. So the explanation that this guy comes from somewhere else. He's a journalist, he's a musician, he's a writer, he's something like that, and he's in Rome, whatever. So Brubaker isn't nothing like that. He's just a small town girl, a small town boy, who wants to be a whatever, an actor or something like that, a model, celebrity. And he is in New York, which is where this is supposed to happen.
But it's an outsider from the building and from the
Yeah.
group. That's where its outsider trope comes.
And he's also voyeur, and is an unreliable crime witness because he was, well, witness. The motive why he was, why he is the witness to this crime is because he was watching the victim undress, and he had done that before. So
he was a bit of a stalker voyeur.
Then we have another character. This one is also a new character. She's called Olivia Watson. She is a news
Reporter,
investigative reporter. She was working for the New York Times, but her life is not that good anymore. She's working for a tabloid now. She is an outsider too because she doesn't belong to the group of characters, and not she's
lesbian lover.
And also lesbian lover, yeah.
That's another trope.
So
right.
Yeah, well, it's common to lesbians and homosexuals. They were introduced commonly in giallo movies as a kind of a progressive thing to do at the time because there were
and a little bit transgressive at the same time, right?
Transgressive at the same time, really. So this woman is having an affair with Tracy Cates, and Tracy Cates is a character from Orpheum Lofts. Okay, let's go to another one. The picture here, it's Muriel Dobbs. She's the wife of Joe Dobbs. Joe Dobbs is the owner of a cafe near the Orpheum Lofts building. This place is supposed to be the night spot where the group of characters from the Orpheum Lofts, which are a group of friends, they usually meet there, and
where the victim worked, right? She was a singer at the cafe.
Yeah. The victim is Stephanie Armitage, right?
Yes.
Stephanie Armitage is a singer, a jazz singer. She doesn't work at the cafe, but she performs there. I'm not sure, once a week, I think. So she's the woman on the cover, of course. The woman whose heart was a locked room. And this, well, for these two characters are likely to appear because she was a friend, not only a performer at her cafe, but also a friend. By the way, these characters I'm describing can be or not player characters. They can be player characters or just NPCs introduced.
And their tropes in this case are the unwilling investigators, if they are player characters, or murder suspects.
They can be both, of course. They might be murder suspects as well because well, they have a close relationship. There aren't really motives for that, but who knows?
But that's something that happens in the giallos. Is the police always suspects the people that are trying to investigate the murder, right? That's quite a common trope also.
Yeah. Then there's Peter Stone. Peter Stone is mentioned in Orpheum Lofts, though he isn't a character there. He's a retired detective who has lived in the building. He's a retired NYPD detective. He has maintained the connection to the building and also to the force, but he doesn't live in this neighborhood anymore. So he'll probably be called perhaps by Andy the janitor, is the guy who usually talks to Pete Stone and tells them about the stories from people who still live there. About tropes, so he's of course an outsider because he doesn't live there anymore, and well, he can become other things such as a murder witness if someone else is killed. He'll probably won't
And
be.
probably someone else will be killed,
Yeah.
depending of the time you want to play this in the pace of the game.
Yeah, even if it's a one shot, it's probably sure that another person can be killed,
Yes,
because she's murdered right at the beginning of the game session, so it's very likely.
more corpse will drop.
Well, then there's a list of non-player characters which should be non-playable characters. Stephanie Armitage, obviously, she's just mentioned she dies, so she won't stay there long. There's Carl Hughes. This is another character that is also featured in Orpheum Lofts. He's an intellectual guy, a musician.
That was in love with Jessica, no, with Stephanie. Sorry.
Stephanie, yeah. He was in love with her, but she didn't give him the time of day.
So we will be the prime suspect.
He's a prime suspect.
And he looks like a psychopath a little bit.
Yeah, he has a strange look on his face. Well, this is my face altered with a phone app. Well, then there's Tracy Cates, which is the lover of the other character you mentioned, Bill.
Yes, Olivia.
Olivia, yes. Tracy Cates is an anthropologist and a professor, college professor. She is a intellectual, and most people in the building don't like her. She doesn't live there also, lives in another place. But she, well, right now she probably visits her lover a lot. And even before that, she had a relationship with some of the residents in the Orpheum Lofts, because she was the ex-wife of one of the residents. Okay, so let's, well,
she can become a victim.
I forgot the
In her
tropes.
case.
Yeah, she's a lesbian lover too, and she can become a victim. Yeah, she lives in Chelsea, and she spends now more time there, so she'll be a possible murder victim. Then there's a mystery tenant. The mystery tenant is also featured in Orpheum Lofts, and he is a mysterious guy, of course. There's someone who has a loft, an apartment in the building, but he rarely goes there, and he usually wears a fedora and a Macintosh, a dark Macintosh, and sunglasses. This description is the typical
Giallo killer.
Giallo killer clothing. So he is obviously a suspect, but it's probably most likely if I was a game master, it would be a red herring.
Yeah, it's too obvious.
Too obvious. So well, but he can be a suspect, of course. There's also an additional plot hook about this guy, that some of the kids in the neighborhood think he's a vampire. So he obviously isn't a vampire. There's not supposed to be supernatural in giallos, even though in Orpheum Lofts there's a option to turn that into a supernatural game.
But not really on this scenario. This scenario should be a thriller.
This one not at all. So there's this is just a kid stuff. Then we have Andy Macduff, which is the janitor. He's just a scary guy, creepy dude.
Yes, but he's a weirdo because that's also a trope, right?
Yeah, he's also, yeah. And there's another weirdo and an outsider, which is Louis Brown, another resident. Now there's John Burton. John Burton is a detective who will be investigating the murder case. Well, we could also play it as a player character, I think, if you want to introduce some antagonism between players. This is an older cop, is a veteran.
He's the bad cop.
Yeah, he's the bad cop. And then I call him John Burton, but John Burton is
yeah, John Burton.
is the bald guy here.
Yeah.
The detective is called Detective Albert Torello. And then there's the good cop, which is Tony Delgado. Tony Delgado is a family man and a nice guy. He's married to a nurse, which is another connection to the next scenario, which is the memorial. I'm not sure. Well, he's a family man. It's also a trope for giallos. He's the guy who is worried about his personal life. He's a cop. Well, the other one is the incompetent cop. This one is the more thorough. The guy wants to investigate details and to get to the heart
actually
of the
find
matter.
the real killer and not just book someone.
Torello just wants a guilty party to arrest. Okay, so there's now the story begins. There's the description of the first murder, and then possibilities for other murders and other things that could happen. And there's a describe the possibility for a murder, which is Julia. If you have read Orpheum Lofts, you know who is Julia. Is a wannabe actress who was in love with Carl Hughes. And then there are some smaller plot hooks around, and then what happens when the investigation starts, and then possibilities for other murders, second murders, and the final description.
Yes, you have a lot of choices there, so there's not one only solution.
Okay, we've looked at this. So if you want to try a giallo, this is probably the first thing to do. You can pick it up for free, and I'll put the link below, of course. And well, if you like this one, you'll probably want to try the other three, or just one. At least Orpheum Lofts is obviously the one you should try first, because there's a connection to this one. Okay, so that's all for this promotion, and next week or the next one we'll have to talk about the memorial. So have a nice weekend. Bye-bye.
Bye.